Good morning, Bitcoins, and welcome to MadBitcoins Live. The price of Bitcoin is $28.39. It's 4:23 on Monday, July 31st, 2017. My name is Thomas Hunt, and we're joined by Tatiana Moroz, singer, songwriter, revolutionary, and coin. Tatiana's got a new speaking spot at the new, let's see, where is it? At the 100X Investors Conference. Tatiana will be speaking, and this is an interesting conference. It's actually an online conference, so if you want to try it out, you can sign up at 100xinvestors.com. They've got a code MAD20 if you want to try a discount. You can pause it and come back to this. But you guys might know Tatiana because she's in my most popular video ever, the Bitcoin song with Tatiana Moroz, live in San Francisco. Has more than 97,000 views. But before we play any of that song, let's talk to Tatiana. How's it going, Tatiana? Gotta unmute yourself.
What a rookie mistake. It's really nice to see you. Thank you for that lovely intro.
I know, and I didn't even mention all the Tatiana coin stuff that I got lately. Don't know if you guys are early, but I was an early investor in Tatiana coin. I might have put around $20 in 3 years ago or something like that, and I think I got around $200 worth of stuff, and it was all autographed, and I've got the poster inside my locker now, and there's a heart on the CD, and oh, it's all happening now. It's embarrassing. I've got the sticker on my notebook.
I like that. I like the sticker on the notebook.
And all with Tatiana coins, so it's pretty cool. So how's it going, Tatiana? What have you been up to lately? I know you were in Las Vegas for the Freedom Conference or something like that. How'd that go?
You know what? I've been on a tear. I was at the Freedom Fest down in Las Vegas. So I did 2 panels there. One was about the arts and libertarianism, and then the other one was essentially, you know, how to circumvent the state with your anarchy. And it was essentially a Ross Ulbricht panel. But it was really good. We had Lynn Ulbricht, of course, Carla Guricki, who used to be the head of the Free State Project. She does sort of her own thing now. Doug Casey was a really big Ross supporter. I was there as well. And Jeffrey Tucker had a lot of good things to say. So, yeah, it was really neat because we were on the big screen, and I felt all fancy because I had, like, the Jumbotron of my face behind me. And then, yeah, I mean, Vegas is really exhausting. We were there together once, weren't we?
We were there. We were there for the Bitcoin Investor Conference a few years ago, and that was an exciting convention. Nick Scabo and all the big people were there. It was fun to be in that town, yeah.
Yeah, I think Vegas is fun, but it's not really my city. So then I went to LA. I did some hippie, you know, detoxing stuff. And then I went to the Mises University, which is down in Auburn, Alabama. So I flew from LA into Atlanta, then drove to Auburn. And I did a performance there. So that was really fun. And now I'm home, thank God, because 2 weeks out is a long time.
So that was it. That was the new album tour, right? Pretty much.
No, I don't think, you know what? It's a sad thing because there's so much heat around like Bitcoin and Tatiana coin and like the tech from Tokenly's coming out really soon that I don't know. Like, I think it's a lot harder to make it as a musician. I get a ton of calls, though, from really interesting people working on amazing things because of my interest in blockchain. So that's a really big change from 3 years ago, you know, where everybody was like, oh, you and your Bitcoin stuff, be quiet, you know. Now everybody's a lot more enthusiastic, and I think that's cool. So, yeah, it's been good. And then, you know, there's music. I'm playing and stuff, but I think that music will have to be like focused on in about 6 months versus right now, just because of like all the other stuff that's happening.
It certainly has changed a lot with blockchain. Instead of having no messages, I just have about 20 messages asking me to promote their ICO. I could have their new person on. They're doing a new ICO. They're launching a new ICO. They're all different variations of the same pitch. So.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of ICO madness right now. It seems a little sketchy. But I think some of it is really like legit, you know. I guess for Tatiana coin and stuff, since it like does more than just act as a financial feature, it's been good to have the clarity from the SEC decision. I'm taking that as an interpretation from Adam and like various people, but yeah. So
I'm
I
gonna
think
have to speak to my attorney about that and get back to you.
oh, well, you know what? Everybody has to speak to their attorney about that. And that's what's ridiculous because it doesn't let people innovate, but you do have all those scammers. So, you know, it's a complicated subject, but I like the innovation that's going on, even if there's a couple shady things. I don't know. I mean, aren't people responsible for looking up things and making sure that they're not retarded? You know?
It might not be possible for people to get enough information with the kind of things that are going on now. I mean, the web pages don't really say anything. The fact that they were on previous projects doesn't really prove anything. It's more like gambling than people want it to be, and that's fine if you want to gamble, and
Some
if you
people
win,
like
if you
it.
lose, yeah.
I feel like it's more fun than regular gambling, though. Because regular
It's
gambling, I mean,
definitely more violent. You could definitely win more, and you could definitely lose more. It's more risky, I think. Yeah.
yeah, but like when I go to Vegas, I never ever want to play the slots. I don't want to do any of that stuff, right? I have no interest in it whatsoever. But I do like the crypto game because you know you can kind of figure out the teams and you go along with them on the journey of what their idea is, and that's really engaging, I think. Plus, some teams are just good teams.
So were you always on the crypto game? What'd you do growing up? Were you in a lot of sports or did you play guitar? What was your favorite thing?
Certainly not playing a lot of sports. I mean, I'm just not that coordinated. I'm a decent skier, but that's basically it. So no, I always did the plays and all the musicals and stuff. I mean, as soon as I was mad that in elementary school we didn't have anything like that, all that we had was regular chorus. But very early on, you know, I was auditioning for all that stuff. But then I went to Berkeley up in Boston. Um, and that was really neat because before that, my professional music, you know, like what I sang was, you know, musicals and nerd stuff from choir. But then I would listen to, you know, Jeff Buckley. Well, I wasn't listening to Jeff Buckley then, but you know, Guns N' Roses or Nirvana or Fiona Apple or Tori Amos or definitely not Pearl Jam. Never a big fan. Sorry, Eddie. Thumbs down. But you know, I think that there was a lot of really good music going on back then. And then when I got to Berkeley, I could kind of mix it. And so I did jazz vocal performance, which was a good little crossover. And then I did music business while I was there.
Yeah, I think I was more into REM and Weezer during that period, but very close, very similar.
I've had friends that are okay. REM I liked, and I liked that song because I would. My friend, she did this impression. She would say, "You know, here I am losing my virginity," and it would be like, I don't know if you could see that, so it would look like you're making out with somebody. It's like so dumb, but that's what I think of when I heard that song.
It's a great song, and most people think it's about, you know, the religion. It's actually not. It's about flirting and a woman figuring out that you like her, maybe even a man knowing Michael Stipe.
Really?
So who
I've
knows?
I've
Yeah.
listened to that song so many times. I've never taken that lyrical take. I'm surprised because I like to listen to lyrics.
There's it's an old Southern phrase. It means losing my religion, like she's going to find out, like she's my religion. So, but I don't think most people take it that way. Most people take straightforward the religious aspects of it. It didn't help that in the music video, I think Michael Stipe is wearing angel wings. It has a very gothic take to everything. So,
Yeah, REM was cool. Depeche Mode was cool. I don't know. The 90s was the last era where the music was really good. I think that I've said this before and I'll say it again. Britney Spears marked the death of music. It was just all over. I was reading an article about Prince and like different stories about Prince, and I'd seen Prince perform, um, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something, and he was the best concert I'd ever seen. And now we've got the New Kids on the Block reunion tour. It's like, please make it stop.
oh, come on. I personally went to a Third Eye Blind concert the other night, and they said if
Oh,
you
Third
told
Eye
me
Blind is
20
awesome.
years ago we'd still be playing this album, I'd told you you're crazy. And then they walked right back
No,
into it.
that's a fantastic album. Like such a good record. They have so many good songs on that record. I love that album.
There's a few solid like tracks 2, 3, and 4, something like that are very solid, but then the second half wasn't very strong, and they were playing the whole album, so they're kind of locked in. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I mean it's I you want to see him play the full album, but you're also like, this track's never going to be heard again. This track's never going to be heard again.
yeah.
It wasn't exactly like Rush and Moving Pictures. That was a better full album show for me.
So I never listened to Rush. I know that Rush is supposed to be like a libertarian band, and therefore I should admire them, and I do for their politics, but not for their music because I don't even know their music.
See, now I was always told Rush is a mathematical band, and if I
Yeah.
had a math brain that I'd like it, and there's a lot of clicking and a lot of drumming, and I really feel that. I mean, a lot of what brought me to Rush, it's strange, is actually there's this TV show called Chuck, and he's kind of a nerd idiot, and he works at Best Buy, but he's like a secret spy. And there's one episode where his buddy has to beat a video game, and he has to listen to Rush's Tom Sawyer over and over again to match up the timing with the game. So that really drilled it through to my head. And then there's a couple of them. They all, I won't deny that I think all Rush sounds the same, but I think it sounds great. I think it sounds the same and great.
That's really funny. It seems like some nerdy stuff that the guys at Berkeley would listen to. You know, I've been surrounded by nerdy people for a very long time. I mean, I'm pretty nerdy myself, but um, yeah, I don't know, music school nerds and then libertarian nerds and then the Bitcoin nerds. There's still like there are some similarities and some differences there. But I feel comfortable in that group.
Well, the Bitcoin nerds are starting to make a lot of money recently, so that's been a difference, I think.
Love that. I love that they're all making money. And did you see somebody keeps donating like huge chunks to Ross Ulbricht? I'm like, this is great. Seriously, somebody's giving them like 20 grand every week or something. It's weird. I don't know who it is. They're all different addresses. But whoever that person is, if they're listening, you're awesome. Thank you. I mean, it's like really puts everybody in the family at ease.
Well, that's great. And I know they had that unfortunate event where they lost some Bitcoin recently. So it's good if people can donate to
No, I
make
don't
up for
think that
that.
they did lose
Did they
it.
get it back?
No,
Oh, good.
they went through hell, but they ended up saving that money,
That's great.
which
And
was great.
it's, just because, allegedly Ross is in jail for this doesn't mean that his mother and the lawyers know how to manage their Bitcoin. That
Yeah.
wouldn't be transmitted, right? So.
Well, I think it's difficult for people to have good Bitcoin security, especially if you're old. It's very intimidating. Not to say that they're old, but they're not like spring chickens. And these hackers, they're very insidious. They can really they socially engineer things. So, I mean, I get weird phishing emails and stuff. It's kind of scary when that happens. And when I saw what they went through, I mean, they were so lucky because they were seconds away from having a large amount of Bitcoin stolen, which in itself, like, what kind of a dirtbag steals from Ross Ulbricht? Come on, he's like an American hero, a world hero. And but luckily it ended up okay. But that family's been getting put through the ringer lately. I mean, Ross is in a different prison now, so Lynn can't go and see him. The family can't go and visit him like as easily in New York, which supposedly Colorado will be good. I don't know. I mean, he's got a little bit more.
So just for those that aren't keeping track, Ross was in New York and they moved him to Colorado with no notice. Was there any more information given about that? Why they did that?
So he was always scheduled to go to max security, right? And so since his last appeal was denied and the court upheld double life plus 40 years for all nonviolent crimes, which is psychotic and completely effed up in a million different ways. Yeah, they basically can throw him into a max security prison, but they don't tell the family. They basically they put you in like a holding jail, and then they have this thing called, I think, the hotel club, and they place you into a prison, which, it's the most expensive, horrifying hotel from hell club in the world. Because also, these people are so expensive to house, and there are so many nonviolent criminals now in max security. Like, it's still dangerous, but some of the max security prisons are not as bad because there's so many people getting thrown in for nonviolent crimes that they're overcrowding, not just the murderers. But Ross is definitely with, dangerous people. It's max security prisons, no joke. But he gets to be outside a lot more, which, he's a Eagle Scout. He's somebody who hikes, spends so much time outdoors that, to me, after he was cooped up in New York for almost 4 years, I think it's a nice difference. And I think he's doing okay. I mean, his attitude is always really positive. I don't know how he remains so positive, but whenever I feel like a grump, I just think of him and I'm like, oh, fine, I won't be grumpy, because he's able to keep such a positive attitude in basically the worst circumstances.
Now, I know you were upset last time I talked to you. There was a brand new book out, and I haven't gotten the chance to read it yet, but I think it was called American Gangster
Yeah,
by
something like that. Or
what's his
Kingpin.
name? Nick Bilson, I think the guy that wrote the Hatching Twitter book, which I
Yeah.
liked, and a couple other books I think I'd like to read. He's kind of a chronicler of the .coms, so it's interesting to see him take this on. But what did you think about the book? Have you read it yet, or just kind of
I
shocked and sensationalist?
I think, I mean, obviously my answer is going to be that it's sensationalist. There's a lot of factual errors in the book. They made no attempt to show that there's an appeal, that there's a different side to the story. It was essentially a regurgitation of the government narrative. Um, Hold on one second. If there's somebody knocking at my door.
I do predict that they'll use that book to make the movie. As much as you
Well,
may
that's what
not
they
like
want.
it or others may
Okay,
not
well,
like it, I think it's right there.
well, look, in my opinion, Hollywood and Hollywood and the government are in bed together. They can't have the real story come out, and the evidence speaks for itself. There are two corrupt agents. There's been proof of actual evidence tampering. There's been proof of another DPR logging in after Ross was already in jail. I mean, this is an insanely wrong case, and it's incumbent upon the people who are sane and who know what happened, or at least have followed the case more carefully, to get the truth out there. And, Nick Bilton wanted to make money. He interviewed Ross's old girlfriend. She gave him a bunch of salacious nonsense. He didn't make an effort to present the truth. And he's even in interviews said that Ross deserved the life sentence. Anybody who thinks that Ross Ulbricht deserves a life sentence has no ability to critically think on a multitude of levels and is basically a morally corrupt human being. I have no respect for him. I don't have any respect for his book. I heard it's like a entertaining read, sort of like a crappy thing that you read on the beach. But when you think about all the people in the world that suffer at the hands of the drug war, it ceases to be a source of entertainment. And it really should serve as a cautionary tale against government involvement in the drug trade. And instead, it's basically, a rah-rah government is good and Ross is bad bullshit narrative. So I have no respect for it.
I do
But
think
people could read it.
it'll probably be made into the movie, but the other movie that they say is rumored is by the Coen brothers. And you know what that means. It'll be a farce. Similar to what you said, the two bumbling Secret Service agents stealing from the kind of idiot child drug lord, the fake hits. All the stuff is there for a really good Coen brothers farce. I don't know if it'll really help the situation at all, but it does seem like what Hollywood will give us is a sensational movie of the week type movie, and then maybe if we're lucky, a very funny Coen brothers farce.
I would be disappointed if the Coen brothers did take it, because I don't know, I respect their art, and I think that if you're creating art, you should really do that with respect for the medium and respect for the reach that you have. And yes, it's entertaining to write potentially a farcical account of this, but there are millions of people around the world whose lives are destroyed because of the drug war. And the Silk Road, whether or not Ross invented it, whatever, allegedly, blah, 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 it was one of the greatest weapons that mankind has ever had in order to take back control of their autonomy. And it would be unfortunate if it was turned into something stupid. I've actually heard that they don't want to do it, or like they're having problems with the Coen brothers take. And I think that is like based on Nick Bilton's book. But I'm not gonna. I don't like to think too much about that stuff. I think that there's actual genuine art being made around Ross. Over the upcoming months, like there's gonna be some new announcements of like different artists that want to kind of help raise awareness, and I think that that's a better thing to focus on. You can't really control that narrative. I know it really upsets Lynn. It upsets Ross. Like he would really love to tell his side of the story, but because he's still in appeal, anything that he says can be taken out of context and used against him. And we're talking about somebody's life. So of course
And they had already used his journals against him in the trial. Would be worried about journaling now even. It must be a difficult position to be in where you can't even say anything for fear of it being used against you.
Yeah, like I'm not even so sure that those are his journals. I don't talk with him in depth about the case. I don't want to, nor is he allowed to, but we'll see. I hope that there will be a way that Ross can tell his story and be vindicated. You know, I think that the fight is long from over, and I'm impressed every single day with Lynn's stamina and just her resolve. Like, she's really, because we travel so much together, she's really expanded my understanding of, you know, the penal system and what's going on with the prisons, what's going on with the policy behind it, and also how it's even affecting the medical marijuana industry. For example, medical marijuana is studied very actively in other countries, specifically in Israel. There's a really big lab. But in the US, for over 50 years, you can only get your medical marijuana strain from one place. So you can't really do a diverse study of a very varying plant. And it basically prevents people from being able to make medical progress because of the stupid drug war. So it's not just like prisons are immoral, they cost a lot of money, the courts are unfair, the cops are out of control. It's also that, you know, people aren't even getting their medical care because of this drug war. So it's just got to end. And I hope that the arts community rallies behind Ross instead of, you know, around the government and their nonsense. Because last I checked, everybody in the arts does drugs, so they should chill out.
Well, it did seem like it was starting to turn until recently. Recently, people like Attorney General Jeff Sessions have kind of restarted the drug war. He's talking about taking away the medicinal marijuana, pretty much everything you can say. And like you said, artists have been part of this protest movement a long time ago. John Lennon had a song where a guy was sent to jail for 2 joints. And he sat outside the prison and he played the song and he played it over and over again. And a few days later, they let that guy go. I don't know that we could do that this time, but I like the idea. Well,
listen, if I get more famous, I mean, this is why for my new record, you know, I had Ross had drew a picture of me for my birthday. And I thought, wow, this is what I should use as my album cover, because it allows me to point out, look, if you don't, like with artist coins, you have freedom of artistic expression. That's my main thing that I think that is interesting about it, right? Because if I had a major record label, they would be like, no, you're not allowed to, you know, have anything by this controversial figure. You know, they'll be like, just wear a short skirt and dance around like an idiot. I mean, that's what our culture has devolved into. So I was very proud to use that picture to illustrate, you know, the power of art. And it was cool because Judd Weiss is an amazing photographer. It was like this artistic trifecta that organically came together. And plus, you know, I have the Silk Road song, so that kind of goes together with it too.
Now, I've heard a lot of people lament the lack of protest movement. There's no protest music around the Iraq War, Afghanistan, or even now maybe with Trump and the resistance. Do you find that there's other artists that support you with protest music, or are you kind of alone in this?
I think that they're out there, but you know, the labels, they're not funding art that is critical of the state. If anything, they'll only present it in this sort of like leftist position. But it's never anything other than like sort of like a Marxist form of protest, which is just weird. So yeah.
You can only use the major labels to protest against capitalism.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's almost like the Rage Against the Machine guys. I mean, I love Rage Against the Machine, but they were like socialist commie kind of types, right? But you can't be a freedom person in Hollywood, period. That doesn't just extend to music. I have so many conversations with people who have very similar libertarian leanings, for example, and they feel like they can't even engage in a conversation without being essentially like spit on. Right? Because everybody, when they hear, and the assumption that of course you love Hillary Clinton, she's wonderful, and I'm with her, and all this nonsense, you know. And if you don't toe that line, you're out of there, and that's horrible. That's not how it should be. Art is supposed to be blazing the trail, and it should have a diverse viewpoint. And right now, it's very homogenous. So I don't know. I mean, look at how the government treated John Lennon. They were following him. They were stalking him around. They killed MLK. I mean, they don't like these people that are rabble-rousing. They prefer the Britney Spears, Rihanna, you know, like little stupid boy bands or their little wannabe rock music. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a big push on music that doesn't really have any kind of soul. And now they're making it a little bit less miserable. Instead of having that kind of gangster rap, miserable kind of music where everybody was like depressed, now they're making it all fake happy songs and like fake love songs. But you can tell that they're not real because there's something, You listen to, I was listening to Stevie Wonder a few weeks ago, or like a week ago, and I was thinking, my God, he had so many hits, and they were all songs about love and God and family and the beauty of life. And now we get nothing like that. And I felt gypped. Are you a Stevie fan?
It seems now a lot of the songs are written by computer too. Like
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder had like a feeling, and he went through a groove, and certain songs are similar, and certain albums are similar. But now they find something that works with these magical computers, and they put out the pop star, and it's perfect, and it goes great the first week, and then it disappears.
Yeah, but that's because they just push it out there, right? Like I put out my record, and yeah, I sold some copies, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I sold so many records. You know, it's disappointing. But then I spoke with my other artist friends, and everybody has the same exact experience. Like, unless you've got a marketing budget of, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, your chances are just impossible. And like, I'm a really busy person. I'm not in college where I have 50 friends that I just drag to my gigs in New York. Like, I'm past that point in my career. So, I think that there's opportunities for something sustainable, but being an artist sucks. Very like, it's like very thankless. I went and I saw some bands at Hotel Cafe, which is this really fancy place in LA. It's supposed to be so cool, blah, blah. And it just didn't look appealing to me. It was really weird because I usually go to gigs and I'm like, oh, I wish I was playing or something, right? But it just seems like you're begging for everybody to give a shit. And I don't know, is it really that important? I think that there's other ways to use my music that's more productive.
At the lower levels, it's so hard. You try to give your CD away or sell your CD, no one wants it. You tell them about the Facebook page, no one wants to hear it. You play the songs, they're okay, no one really cares. I've heard now for an artist that if you get your song in a commercial, that's making it, that you've broken through. And I've heard from other people that there's no more idea of selling out, that the kids, they only have an idea of successful or not successful. So if your song was in a commercial and you were making lots of money on the iTunes and people were pushing the Shazam button, would that be it? Would you be happy, or would you be sold out? What do you think? Is there still an idea of selling out?
So I think that's an interesting question, because when I was graduating Berkeley, that's when people started talking about using music in commercials. And I remember thinking, oh, that's so disgusting. I was offended. And people were deeply offended by the idea. But you're right. Now everybody's like, oh, the commercial. It just depends on what people's versions of success are, right? I mean, I would like to sell more records. I'd like to have more music performances that weren't associated with conferences, but like where people were actually listening, and I didn't have to worry about bringing an audience, and people would just be like, bravo, bravo, to be like, you know, like MTV Unplugged or something. But I mean, I don't know, different people, like, I guess the basic form of success, right, is being able to make music for money and not have to get a real day job. But when I think of my day job, advising with Tokenly a lot, like I'm doing a lot of speaking, I'm educating people about cryptocurrency and music. So I think that that has more value for me than just performing or like selling out the single or something.
Well, and if you think about it from their perspective, commercials are really their only chance to get me. I'm not really going to listen to the radio anymore. If I
Mm-hmm.
see like a band announcement, I can't hear the announcement. I don't know what the sound really sounds like. I'm not going to CD stores or record stores. It's just, I'm even
That's true.
new music on iTunes. I listen to what's recommended to me. I don't really go out of my box much. So the commercial really is it. If they can get it stuck in my head in that 30 seconds, that's their best chance to break through. It's very
Yeah, or
difficult.
like in a TV show. A TV
Mhm.
show is kind of cool. A TV show seems more respectable.
Now
But
there are TV shows like MTV where they actually like push the music into the show, and it seems like it doesn't fit and it goes on too long, and they bring up the track name. That's a little over the top, I think, but that's probably also the only way they're going to get to those kids. So,
well, they've got to brainwash us all. But I mean, that's why I think that the blockchain space is really interesting at this point, because you can, like, I'm most familiar with what we're doing because Tokenly is going to do this thing called tech. So we're making a side chain and stuff. So I've been following around with that. But when I think about the way that you can really interact with people, and through the messaging layer, it kind of removes the need for social media in certain ways. And through the transaction layer, that removes the need for other kinds of store functionality. Like, I don't know. I think that people are going to start interacting differently, and we're going to see this big acceleration of entrepreneurial efforts once the tools are really in place, that people are trying them out and able to use them without too much friction.
What it's starting to feel like for me is I already feel like it's not that it's like a fair playing field, but that it's level. I look at it and I see like MSNBC has maybe 3 million subscribers. Joe Rogan has like 5 million subscribers. He's on the level with them. I have, 10,000 or whatever, maybe 7,000. So I'm in the game. I'm not on the same level certainly, but we're all using YouTube. It's starting to look like even advanced
YouTube sucks now.
Well, it's still, I mean, there's a lot of free streaming. There's a lot of free bandwidth. I think something like Patreon, we're all using Patreon, but Patreon needs to be more tied into YouTube. I'm not sure why YouTube hasn't bought them, or maybe Amazon hasn't bought them. But it seems like there's a path for all the artists, and it's going to be on YouTube, be on Twitter, be on Patreon, be available to your audience, be accessible, but at the same time, be really good at what you do, right? There's this thing where you have to wear all these hats now, and I think it was Bill Hicks or somebody. They're like, maybe it was. I want to say it was the other guy. I'm going to forget his name, but I'm going to steal his work anyway. But he says, "Oh, you're a great comedian, but can you act?" And it's like completely different skills. And you're a great singer, but can you act, or can you look pretty in a play, or look good in the ads, or whatever you got to do? It's so many different skills, and it seems like you have to be good at them all. So what do you think? Should we be good at everything or focus on one thing?
I think that we should have as many options as possible. And where I take issue with YouTube and Patreon, even from what I understand, they're being really censorshipy. And that's what I don't like. I don't like that and I've seen this from the beginning of my use of YouTube, like YouTube seems to only let certain things get out and other things they don't. And it doesn't seem to be based on talent or anything. Like, I never figured out where their #1 videos or whatever are even coming from, because they're not the #1 video I've ever seen. And so, their algorithms are funky. I would like to see a neutral playing field, like a little bit like Steam It, I know some people have questions about Steam It, but I mean, it's working. People like it. There's people on there. It's, I post on there. It's fine. But I don't like the idea of curating content through Facebook's lens, because I think Mark Zuckerberg is a scary person.
I have seen a new thing on YouTube lately. They have advertiser-friendly videos. And this was a big part of the adpocalypse, is that the advertisers were kind of blindly advertising, and their ads were showing up on a bunch of fake news or very critical, questionable things. So they pulled out their ads. So YouTube overreacted and gave people too much tools. And now what you say is happening. We did a video a couple days ago on the World Crypto Network, and we've been very critical of Bitcoin Cash, and we've been a little critical of Ethereum, some other projects. So there's reasons for people to dislike us. But now they're marking the videos as non-advertiser friendly to try to take away the ads. It's just a new form of censorship. It's something that, a small network can't control against. A large network could.
That's why I feel so passionate about like what we built with. I mean, I don't mean to, I feel like I'm hawking it, but I also feel like it's a little bit of my baby, the way that I envision that system existing, where people have their own artist tokens and they're, making digital media into representations and stuff. Like, you can't really censor that. And you can also have the voluntary interaction. You don't have to participate in Tatiana land. You don't have to participate in like Bobby land or whatever.
Oh, please tell me it's called Tatiana land.
I think it should be called that. I think that sounds really good. I think that's maybe what I'm going to call it. Yeah, I like that. All right. You've heard it here first, guys.
It sounds pretty good, but I am excited for Star Wars land. I can't deny that.
Okay, well, I don't even know what that is, but I like Tatiana land. It makes me feel like Dolly Parton. What's that? She's got that one, like with the
Dollywood.
Dollywood. Man, that's a good name too. I can't top that.
Very few can.
Well, there's time. Is she still alive? She is still alive, right?
She is still kicking. Man, her and Willie Nelson. Both still going, yeah.
I feel like, okay, so who are your, if you had 5 artists that you could hang out with, who would they be?
They still
Alive
have
and
to be
dead.
alive.
No, no,
Alive
no.
and dead.
Alive and dead.
5.
Top 5.
Oh, alive and dead.
You
Okay,
can choose
so
either, you
we're
know, so
going
why
dead. I
couldn't
mean,
you?
we've gotta start with the dead ones. I mean, Jimi Hendrix, John Lennon. Let's see, maybe the rest of the Beatles. I mean, Bob Dylan, Bowie. But again, what are you going to get from this hangout? Do they all have to be musicians? Who do you have?
Well,
Give me some of yours. Let me think of some others.
all right, so I've got Jeff Buckley, but that's just because I want to have sex with him, and I also think he's a really good artist. But like I've thought for a very long time, like if I had to breed, you know, against my will, that's who I would want it to be.
Is this like what's her name? Bonnie Raitt, and they had a kid with David Crosby, I think, and she's a lesbian. So,
Really, she is? I didn't even know that. She's such a good
I believe
artist.
so.
I don't know if that makes any difference, but anyway.
Not to be critical of Bonnie Raitt, but I do think it's pretty well known. Yeah.
Oh, she is. I didn't know that about her, but she has so many really good blues songs. I like covering songs that she does. I like that
Yeah.
Angel from Montgomery song.
Come to my window.
All right, but she's not making in the top 5. So we've got Jeff Buckley, the Beatles. I'm just going to do a blanket. Cat Stevens. I don't know. I feel like I'd be just happy with those 3. Oh, Michael Jackson and Prince. That's who I want to hang out with.
Ooh, Michael Jackson is an interesting one. I mean, I think, do I want to hang out with him? I mean, I like the career.
Hell yeah, you do. He's a magical person. I don't buy any of that child molester stuff with him. Hell no.
Oh, I wish I couldn't buy it, but then he released that bad album, and since then it's been over. The one after Dangerous. Not high
everybody
quality.
has a good album after a while. When you get old, your albums start to suck. That's just like what happens. Think about it.
Although I gotta say, I was listening to Off the Wall this morning, and I was really impressed. That song could be Daft Punk. It could be Go Out on the Night, the Let's Dance the Night. He's got the techno thing, and this is in the 70s. He's way ahead of his time.
No. Everybody right now is ripping off of Michael Jackson. That's why I find Bruno Mars to be annoying. Like, he's a talented artist, but he's just a wannabe Jamiroquai Michael Jackson. Although I think
I hear those songs all over the place, and I think people are back into Michael Jackson, and I think that they found some like hidden vault of, and it's always Bruno Mars, and I'm always like, it's almost catchy and it's almost like another song, but it's never quite right.
Exactly how I feel about it. It's like, it's almost like microwave food, or just food that's kind of made of plastic, or like diet food. It looks all good. It looks like cake, kind of tastes like it. You're like, but then you just find out it's got all aspartame and all like creepy stuff inside. And that's how I feel about pop music today. I love pop music. I wish we had good pop music. You know who's a good pop music person? This is my guilty pleasure. Is Shawn Mendes.
All right, who's that? What's a favorite song?
He's this little Canadian version of Justin, not Timberlake. What's that other little dorky one that's always causing trouble?
Bieber.
Justin Bieber, yes. Yeah. I think he's also Canadian. No, Shawn Mendes is like a little Bieber, but he's really good. He's got this song, Mercy, and it is unreal. If people want to listen to it, it was on Jimmy Fallon. He did a live version of it, and he is amazing. His record right now is really good. I don't know the name of it, but the one with the Mercy on it. So that was like the first good pop record I've heard in a long time. And I don't care that he's cheesy and it's a formula. I still like it.
Yeah, my guilty pleasures would be more like, I don't know, Wilson Phillips.
Why should you be guilty about that? Wilson Phillips is very good.
They are pretty good, but they're kind of a cheesy girl band. I've been listening to some new music lately. What about The Weeknd had a new album that was pretty good. The new Jay-Z album, I listened to that. I can't repeat any of the lyrics here. But how about you? Did you find anything recently, Tatiana, that's been good?
You know what? I don't have time to like go cruising around for music. I feel like that's very time consuming. I want people to make recommendations, but I'm not going to listen to Jay-Z because I don't care about him and I think he's Illuminati. But maybe he's not Illuminati, but
he's got some. I mean, whatever side of the fence he's on, the song, the story of OJ, it's got this incredible, like, certainly it has a chorus that I can't repeat, because it's like, you know, light N-word, dark N-word, black N-word. I mean, it's just, and I'm saying N-word, I want to be a polite person here, but it's got these choruses during the song that are really strong. He explains how when he was a kid, he could have bought a building in Dumbo, that neighborhood in New York, for like $5 million, and then now it'd be worth $25 million. But now, because he's Jay-Z and he's a big star, he could buy a piece of art worth $1 million, do no work at all. Now the piece of art's worth $5 million, and then he's going to hand it on to his kids. And he communicates this through the song, and that's how you get rich. I mean, you buy something big like a building or a house, you pass it down generation after generation, and art's a great investment for Jay-Z, I think. So
actually, you know what's interesting is I was getting an introduction to the art market, and apparently, like all the modern art onward is going to, the speculation is it's going to crash because all the fine art before that was so good, and then all this art is almost like a laundering scheme. And I thought that that was really interesting. And apparently there's like kingmakers in the art world. So when I think about, you know, artist coins and stuff, I wonder, I'm not, this isn't my specialty, but I wonder what disruption could be brought, because people are laundering things, like they're buying kidneys and stuff with fake art, or art that they're like spending the money that way. So it's so weird and creepy to me that that goes on.
I wasn't even worried about the fake art. I'm just more worried about the terrible art.
Yeah, no,
I have a subscription to the Museum of Modern Art, and I was just down there the other day, and there's some of them, it's like it's a color wheel, you know, like rainbow colors, and it's big, and that's it. There's some of them, it's like a big metal circle, that's it. Some of it's like a big metal rectangle, that's it. So most of these art, I look at them and I'm like, you were so good at fooling rich people. Teach me your incredible talent.
that's a very good way of looking at it, because that's essentially what they're doing, right? And I don't know, I think that there's like, I feel a little bit like I'm being conspiracy theory-ish today, but I don't, whatever. I think that there is a little bit of kind of sketchy business going in that way. I don't like it. And I don't like the idea that some master is deciding what art is good and what art should have value. I'd love to see some disruption in that.
Well, and you always knew that art was a dirty game when they told you that
Did I? I didn't know.
Well, I was pretty clear to me when they said that Van Gogh was, you know, starving while he was alive and a genius as soon as he was dead. The idea that your art is worth so much more as soon as you're dead. Even today, I was looking at the Edvard Munch exhibit, and his house is full of his work. And there's a self-portrait of him, and he looks very unhappy, but he's surrounded by his work. And I think that they were there to take his work away. And as soon as he died, they raided his house, and they're like, he had this one and this one and this one, and now we're taking them on tour, and suddenly they're really valuable. But 10 minutes ago, it was Van Gogh's personal collection or Edvard Munch's personal collection, and now it's priceless. So it is a painful thing to think about. Like your greatest success as an artist is to die.
I think that's what happened with Michael. I was so depressed when Michael Jackson died for like a year. Because if you look at, I don't think that he was molesting children. So like if you look at his downfall, apparently his fall from grace was around the time when he started talking about, you know, heal the world, like relating to people, peace, and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden he's a child molester. It's like, I think that when these artists get a lot of power, they are a direct threat to the state and to the establishment of power. And I love that about art. That's what it should be.
It is a very sad story with Michael Jackson. My understanding is that he was on a Pepsi commercial, and that Pepsi set his hair on fire, and that they set his hair on fire so bad that he pretty much was addicted to painkillers after that. And then, of course, he overdosed on painkillers, and that's why he passed. So in many ways, it's Pepsi's fault.
Okay, so basically, don't drink Pepsi, folks.
Don't drink Pepsi.
Care about Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Drink Coke.
Yeah, or water. I would recommend water.
So we've got Michael Jackson. We've got The Weeknd. I've been listening to old Meatloaf songs.
Oh, I love Meatloaf. My mom used to play Meatloaf in the car all the time.
Oh, you won't believe it. I was at karaoke lately, and this girl wanted to borrow my songbook. So I said, "What were you going to sing?" And she says, "Adele." And I'm like, ooh. So I asked her if she would sing Paradise by the Dashboard Light, and she did, and I nailed it. It was awesome.
How did she do? Did she nail it? It's a hard part, but a fun part.
She was really good. She was like, you know, singing with the force. Because, yeah, the woman has a lot of role in there. And then it keeps going back to Meatloaf over and over again. And there's so many choruses. I was exhausted by the end of that thing. So.
Well, singing is an athletic sport, I guess.
I think so. But what else can we talk about? anything you've been listening to lately? What are you going to do? Any concerts in the future? What's next?
You know, there's a lot happening right now. I'm going to do the 100x investors thing, right? And that's going to be August 8th and 9th. I'm actually just singing, just doing like a musical interlude. And then I'm going to Poland. I might stop in Switzerland and Prague and Berlin, but I'll probably just end up going to Warsaw because I have a lot of travel. I'm going on the Contra Krugman cruise, so it's like Bob Murphy and Tom Woods, and I'm singing on that cruise, so that'll be really fun. There's a fintech conference I'm doing in October. My birthday's next month, so I don't know. I might have a party at the studio. We'll see. I don't know
Sounds
what else
very
is
cool.
happening.
Sounds like a lot of stuff. I know I'm
Yeah, I
going
mean,
to
I'm doing my
the
podcast
Steve
and
Miller
stuff.
Band concert soon.
Oh, really?
But
That's
that's only
fun.
because it was cheap.
Still is going to be good, I think.
Oh, I think so. A lot of these old rockers still have it. I saw Steely Dan not too long ago. They were great.
Yeah, like, do you think that these cheese balls that are popular now are going to be good in 20 years? I don't think so.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of it is I'm afraid we're too old and we just don't understand. Like Katy Perry, Taylor Swift. I think they'll be doing tours in 20 years. Maybe not Miley Cyrus, but the rest
I
of
actually
them.
think Miley Cyrus is quite talented. I saw her doing this. She did a cover of Jolene, and it was so good. I was so amazed. It was an acoustic cover of it, which is a great song. It's really fun to sing in the first place. But
Wrecking Ball is a good song. It's very catchy, very poppy, but she didn't write it. So
no, well, she also is like licking a sledgehammer. So I don't know what's up with Miley,
she
but
says she regrets that, and so do other Bitcoiners, no doubt, who have licked sledgehammers. Not myself. But Tatiana, anything do you want to say in closing? Where should the audience check out your work? What's the
oh well, they
number
can.
one thing going forward?
Well, they can go to tatianamoroz.com and they can go and see what we're doing. They can go to token.fm and see what we're doing on that front. I've got my podcast, so people can listen to that at thetatianashow.com. I've got a SoundCloud, Twitter, Queen Tatiana. I highly recommend everybody picks up the new record, Keep the Faith. Yeah, and that's it. Thanks very much for having me on. I had a good time.
All right. Thanks so much, Tatiana, for being on. We're going to play just a little bit of your song on the way out here, the
Cool.
Bitcoin jingle. So everybody hold on. Let's see here we go.
I didn't want to give any of my money to a nation based on war. I wanted to be free, nothing holding me back from where I want to go. Thought about it, what was the choice that I made? It was to take away the money, don't give up your money, use Bitcoin whenever you can. Use Bitcoin whenever you can.
And you can use Bitcoin right now to donate to this show. It's true.
I wanted to be kind, open up my mind, just like an instrument.